All right, I'll make a motion to call to order. Since we do not have a chairperson, I will make that call. We'll take roll call. Adam Bowman. Here.
So, sorry to interrupt. The other boards that I've been to have done like a brief introduction as part of the roll call. If you want to just call the roll, that's fine. If you want to have people introduce themselves, that works too.
We got this.
Okay.
We got this. Elaine Vincent.
Here.
Jason Ruggles.
Present.
Kevin Repcheck.
Here.
Marty Basic.
Yep, here.
Sam Ashbaugh.
Here.
Terry Johnson.
Here.
Thomas Providence.
Here.
Okay, we're gonna go around now and you can tell us about yourself. Again, Andrew McCreary, the finance director here, been here about 10 years, excited to get started.
Marty Basic, I grew up in the South Hills, lived here my whole life, but bought my first house in Mount Lebanon about a year ago. And wanted to get involved, and I think this is a great way to do it, so excited to be here.
Jason Ruggles, new Mount Lebanon resident. I moved here from New Orleans in July. So bought a house on Hazel, right before the first of the year. So same thing, just happy to be here and happy to be a part of the community.
Adam Bauman moved to Mount Lebanon. It'll be 9 years in July. Moved from Milwaukee. I worked for FedEx. A portion of it was headquartered in Milwaukee, and then it merged with Ground, which is here in Pittsburgh. So still FedEx as well.
Kevin Repcheck, 23-year Mount Lebanon resident. Just looking forward to, I mean, I've been in finance my whole career, but all on the personal financial planning side. So I know nothing about municipal budgets. So I was thrilled to hear that you're not expecting us to do that.
Good. And the necktie, that's it.
I come to work, dude. I'm not trying to show it.
Terry Johnson, retired Navy, retired civil servant originally from Michigan. Spent a lot of time, program management in DC. Was for a time the Navy's T&E lead for surface ships. Like I just tell people I blew stuff up for a living, which was fun. And moved here 5 years ago when I retired from the Navy. Been working a little bit of part-time, consulting back to DC, but I'm now fully retired and looking forward to leaning into something interesting. Hope I can provide value.
Tom Provins, I'm 23 years as well, Mount Lebanon. I work in the same racket he does with personal wealth management. Want to kick into the community, to be honest, subtly. I got a bunch of kids, so if I'm here, I'm not coaching a sport. So it's kind of like a reprieve.
Good strategy.
You know what I mean? It's like, 9 screaming adults is better than 10 screaming kids. So same thing, no experience with municipal. I've been on a couple other boards, but not formal to this degree, so.
Hey, Sam Ashbaugh. I just moved back to Lebo about a year ago, after being away for 10 years, just across the board in the city of Pittsburgh, where I was the CFO under former Mayor Peduto. So after being in the thick of things, it's nice to be on this side of the table.
Elaine Vincent, been in Mount Lebanon since 2018. I also have a bunch of kids and a full-time job, working for a financial services consulting company. So if I'm here, I don't have to be putting children to bed, serving dinner, or coaching a sport.
Okay, I'm Steve Silverman, Commissioner. I'm in year 11 of now my third term. I've coached, Kevin and I have coached softball.
Yep.
So I've done that, and I guess as elected, I have a different group of people yelling at me, so, but no, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I am, in our family business, a CFO / controller, so finance background there.
I'm Terry Winstein. I've been here, as Andrew said, 29 years. And I've been the assistant finance director throughout. I think I've gone 5 different finance
I was thinking
directors.
Willie, Marcia.
Marcia twice.
Okay.
Yes.
None better than me. She forgot to add that.
What about the guy standing?
So item 1 is meeting minutes. We don't have any. We have no citizens here, so we will go to, and there's nobody online. Nobody's online, maybe. There's an attendee. Who's our attendee?
My wife.
Oh.
I like the socks too, by the way.
Just checking up on me to make sure I actually came in.
Love it, love it. All right, so item 3, board orientation and onboarding, assistant municipal manager and planner, Ian McMeans, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I am your Assistant Municipal Manager, Ian McMeans. I'll do a brief introduction, I guess. I have lived in the community for 12 years, worked here for 8. Prior to working in this role, I was the borough manager in Homestead for about 5 years and the assistant borough manager in Dormont for about 1.5 years. So I live here, work here. It's a great place to live, great place to work. So if any of you all need anything, I am here to serve you. I was heavily involved with the commission's priority of realigning the advisory boards and putting together the very detailed policies and procedures document that I sent out to all of you when you all came on board. And I also wanted to thank you all for being willing to volunteer. There's a lot of work that happens at the municipality, and we're really blessed and honored to be able to have so many talented residents willing to dedicate their time, not getting paid, just to help the municipality be a better place to live, to work, to raise a family. I also have several children, so being here is also me not, well, we'll see. I'll probably make it home in time to put them to bed, but.
Oh, shoot, I was banking on that.
Well, you all can stay and talk a little longer. I'm going to, try and run through this orientation and not bore you all to death. So thank you all for being willing to volunteer your time. I know the commission certainly appreciates all the input that they get from their advisory boards throughout the process of the year and different projects that happen. So just to start off, I wanted to talk a little bit about, obviously you've met your liaisons, Steve Silverman from the commission, your staff liaisons from our finance department, Andrew and Terry. They will be your primary points of contact. This is kind of my warm handoff to them of how the advisory board structure is supposed to work. The policies and procedures document that I sent out to everyone had a lot of legalese in it because it was reviewed heavily by our solicitor, and that's what happens anytime you have a lawyer look at things. So I hopefully have tried to put this together to make it a little more digestible. So a bit of background on why we did the whole advisory board restructuring. A few years ago, the commission, as one of their priority projects, identified board realignment and restructuring as a goal of theirs. And when we looked at it, there's 5 mandatory boards we have to have by law, that we had 10 true advisory boards, along with municipal staff, commission liaisons serving on a number of other external bodies. The mandatory and the external ones, we didn't have a whole lot of control over, but the advisory boards, we did have control over because they are ones intended to be advisory to the commission. So when we started looking and benchmarked, okay, we have 10 true advisory boards. How does that stack up with our comparable communities? We had the most true advisory boards of any of our comparable communities around us in Allegheny County or, Washington County, I guess, or Butler County. I included Cranberry Peters Township on here too. So the commission decided that because there were 5 commissioners, they would go to 5 advisory boards from 10, which brings us a bit more in line with our comparable communities, and then sets up, having one commissioner be able to be the liaison to each advisory board. And worked out very well. So the commission really started from the ground up and said, what are the 5 areas where we want input from our resident experts? And financial management was one of those 5 areas that were identified. So the purpose of advisory boards, so the real purpose of advisory boards is to be, as they say, advisory to the commission. The commission employs professional staff through the municipal manager and then everyone below the manager. Professional consultants are solicitors, engineers, anyone else that's hired to do consulting work for the municipality. And then the advisory boards, that's all the kind of points of input that go into the commission's decision-making process, the advice from professional staff, from consultants, and then what they hear from advisory boards. And the commission, we have this operational model of a top-down model of policy direction. So the commission as a whole, 5 of them together, set the policy for the municipality, establish our goals, and at the end of the day, approve the budget of what we can spend on things. So advisory boards make recommendations to the commission on prioritization of projects or programs to achieve those goals that the commission has set. And then the commission directs municipal staff through what's funded in the budget primarily on which things to implement, what to move forward, and what initiatives to pursue. But it really is the commission at the top kind of setting the stage for everything, and the advisory boards giving advice on how to accomplish those goals. And then the staff implementing them. So briefly, what's Commissioner Silverman's responsibility of being the liaison is to make sure that the board knows what the priorities of the commission are, and in ensuring the board is focused on commission-supported initiatives, plans, and policies. So over time, the commission has adopted a number of plans, like the comprehensive plan. The commission's held goal-setting retreats where they say, these are our top goals and priorities for this year. So things like that, that the commission has formally adopted, making sure that the board's efforts are in alignment with that, because you're all graciously volunteering your time to be here. And we've had situations in the past where advisory boards have just gone and done a whole bunch of work on something that they thought was interesting and then took it to the commission. The commission said, thanks, but we're not interested in that right now. And then the board members felt like they had wasted all their time, and half of them resigned in some cases. So really ensuring that we have this alignment of making sure that what the board is working on aligns with the goals and policies and priorities set by the commission. And then at every discussion session, those meetings happen before every voting meeting of the commission, which is second and fourth Tuesday of each month. There's a standing agenda item during those meetings for each commissioner to report on what has happened with their advisory board. So to keep the rest of the group in the loop as far as what their boards are talking about. The staff liaison responsibilities. Yeah, sure.
Take a deep breath, give us a chance to take it.
Yeah.
So how often do you attend these?
How often do I attend commission meetings or?
This one in particular.
I plan to be at every one. I mean, that's, I okay, take a couple deep breaths. On that list that you gave, I'm liaison to planning board, with another commissioner, we take turns in outreach. And so the idea is that I try to attend as many board meetings as I can. Now, I'm still ex officio, I can't vote. Really in planning, I really can't say anything because then I have to recuse myself later. But yes, I try to be in all the meetings. One of the things about all the boards, there are 5 commissioners, that's 10 eyes. Okay, you can joke about the glasses, but my point is that the many more residents that are involved to give us what they're seeing, what they're hearing, that sort of thing. So it's very helpful. So I try to be.
And I didn't offer that as argumentative, there was more.
No.
We talked about, what the commissioner does, which is important. It's like, well, how often?
Kevin knows me, really the rest of you don't, so I'm happy to fill in.
Yeah. I'm not shy.
So, no problems.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so the responsibilities of the staff liaisons, meeting support, drafting agendas, keeping minutes, keeping attendance records, as well as storing all the historical documents and everything else through the SharePoint site that the board has access to, and then onboarding and orientation of new board members. So I'm handling this onboarding, terrible pun, and orientation tonight, but after this, it will fall on the staff liaisons to bring along any new board members. And you may have noticed there's 8 of you here tonight. We had one person who wasn't able to accept his appointment. So the commission will be considering appointment of an additional person so that we have 9 appointed board members, a full slate. So this is, like I said, kind of my warm handoff to the staff liaisons. There are some limitations on advisory board. So a lot of this stuff was in that policies and procedures document. Maybe I'll just call it bylaws. That's probably an easier phrase. In the bylaws document that the commission approved. So the limitations that boards and their subcommittees cannot do the following things. Direct activities of municipal employees. The only one who can do that is the municipal manager. So if you want a municipal employee to do something, you would need to contact the municipal manager and request that. Expend municipal funds. Only the commission and by extension, the municipal manager have the authority to expend municipal funds, entering into contracts on behalf of the municipality. So if there's a project you have an idea for and might want to bring a consultant on board, if you want to do something like that, you have to get the manager and most likely the commission to approve that contract. The board itself can't enter into a contract. Performing functions conferred upon any other agency. or host or sponsor events. So on the event side, what does host or sponsor events mean? It really means that if the board as a entity wants to participate in an event, it has to be at a municipal event that's approved by the municipal manager. This board probably won't run into many of these instances. Some of our other boards, like our Civic Engagement Board or our Parks and Recreation Board, this may apply more to them. This is not to say that you can't go to any events as individual residents. You're welcome to attend any event you want to as a resident. But as a formal body, if you want to say, have a table with information that you're passing out about what the board is working on, it has to be at a municipal event with the approval of the municipal manager. So the way that process would work is, if you wanted to attend some event like a First Friday to have a table to say, we're working on this stuff, you need to, probably whoever the board chair is should email the municipal manager, say, here's what we'd like to do at this event. The municipal manager would let you know. Boards may assist with planning, staffing, and event execution. So once again, probably not as much of an impetus for this board, but as an example of what that means, every year we do a residence academy that was community relations board. Now the civic engagement board's kind of taken on that role. So if a member of that board wanted to, help put binders together for that program, or sit at the door, check people in, or, buy cookies for it or something, that all falls under the planning, staffing, execution. Still needs approval of the municipal manager, but it's not the board's event. You're not running it as the board. It's, you're assisting with a municipal event. Same with any materials that get distributed, just need to be coordinated with our public information office, so that we're making sure that we're putting out a consistent message as the municipality, that everybody's on the same page. Advisory boards shall not independently host events or, like I said, formally attend events as a board entity that are not approved or coordinated by the municipality.
This is what happens when you try to make rules for 5 boards that have 5 different areas of focus.
Correct. Yes. So the overall structure of advisory boards, the appointed voting members of the board are the 9 volunteer residents that are appointed by the commission. You will at some point appoint a chair and vice chair. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Liaison positions, there's a commission liaison, 2 staff liaisons, and by resolution, the commission approved 2 positions for liaisons from Mount Lebanon School District. So that's up to the school district to appoint whoever those individuals are. They're welcome to attend the meetings, they can participate in the discussions, but only the 9 voting members can vote on anything. The commission also has carved out in the bylaws a place for associate non-voting members. So at this point, the commission has not designated any organizations as associate members, but if they chose to do so, those organizations would be able to send someone to the meetings. They could participate in conversations and discussions, but wouldn't be able to vote. So maybe not as pertinent for this board, but as an example, if the commission wanted to say have a representative from the Mount Lebanon Nature Conservancy as a non-voting role on the Parks and Recreation Board, they could designate that by resolution. Then the Nature Conservancy could send someone there. That person could participate in the discussion, but wouldn't be able to vote. As well as if there's other boards that are, kind of working on things that may be of interest, you could assign a liaison to attend that board meeting, or another board could have a liaison come to your meeting, but they would be a non-voting member as well. Okay. And if anybody has any questions, just feel free to shout them out. You don't need to wait till the end. So the board member responsibilities, number 1 is residency. So if you move out of the community, you have to resign your position on the board. Relocating within the municipality is not cause for removal. So, if you move to a new home in Mount Lebanon, you can stay on the board. Meeting attendance in person, everybody's here tonight. Virtual attendance via Zoom does count towards a quorum. If you're on Zoom, the expectation is you'll have your camera on so we can see that you're kind of actively participating in the meeting. Really, the goal is that, people aren't turning the meeting on their phone and driving somewhere and just listening to it. Like, we want you to actively participate in the meeting. And the officer running the meeting, whether that's the chair or vice chair, should be in person. So if the chairperson is attending virtually, then the vice chair, if they're here, would run the meeting, just because it's easier to kind of call on people and run things from being here in person. And then collaboration with liaisons. So all board documents should be saved on the SharePoint site. Any working documents or anything like that should be saved on the SharePoint site. And then commission and staff liaison should be copied on any like formal board correspondence. And a lot of the impetus for that lies in the Right to Know law and the Sunshine Act, that any documents related to municipal government business can be requested by anyone through the Open Records Act, the Right to Know law. So if you have working documents on your personal computer or personal Google Drive or something like that, and refuse to give them, then, potentially a Right to Know officer could subpoena access to your computer or your OneDrive or something. And you don't need a Pennsylvania Right to Know officer going through your personal files. So we have a SharePoint site, use it. Save all your stuff on our site, and then you never have to worry about your own personal stuff being opened up. Similarly, with emails, which is why we said, copy liaisons on any official board business. If it's incidental of, hey, are you going to the meeting tonight? Or, hey, can I get a ride with you? You don't need to copy them on that. But, anything of, are you supporting this? Things like that, make sure you copy your liaisons, or like, what are we talking about? Yes.
Another question. So I went on and poked around and, printed out a copy of this, but I couldn't print out a copy of it directly from the SharePoint site. I had to copy it and send it over to another computer. Should I be able to print from the SharePoint site?
You should be able to, yeah.
Did anyone else try?
Yeah, I think you should be able to.
I will try again.
So I will say this board has the advantage of having Andrew as your staff liaison. Other than our IT director, Andrew probably knows the most about SharePoint of anyone that works here. So if you have any SharePoint problems, you can contact Andrew. And he may know more than our IT director, so it's possible. So it's probably like a 1A, 1B. And then if there is a board member that doesn't attend a number of meetings, either 4 consecutive meetings or 6 times in a 12-month period, the board chair can place them on notice for non-attendance, which basically means that the board chair is going to inform the commission, and if the commission decides to remove that person for non-attendance or give them a warning or something, obviously, if you have some kind of like medical situation or something like that, we can be understanding, but the expectation is that, you've volunteered for the board, we'd like you to participate because you have expertise we'd like to take advantage of. And one other note on the meeting attendance thing, like if you're attending virtually and your camera just doesn't work for some reason, if you have tech issues, like we understand, but the expectation is like I said, you're not driving in your car with your phone. Okay, so the core responsibilities of advisory boards, first and foremost, really looking at the goals laid out in the comprehensive plan and making prioritization and recommendations of how to pursue those goals. I'll talk a bit more about the comp plan later. And then recommendations based on any other adopted plans and policies that the commission has. Capital project prioritization list, that's probably not as essential for this board as it is for like Parks and Recreation Board, where every year they make a list of, their priority projects that we should address. But if there is any big capital projects that the board's recommending, we will take those into consideration when we put the capital program together. The board may establish an annual work plan and then an annual report to the planning office as well on what the board has done in the past year. So I said I would talk about the elected positions within the board. So generally every April or May, the board should elect a chair and vice chair. Basically just whoever's willing to volunteer to do it. You can nominate people, have a vote, a majority carries it. So the chairperson presides over and facilitates the meeting, coordinates with the staff liaison on agendas, tracks meeting attendance, and can act as an ex officio member of any subcommittees that the board might create. And then also ensures that the planning office receives any capital project lists and annual reports. And the vice chair performs the duties of the chair when the chair is not available. So that's a relative overview. If you want to choose a chairperson tonight, you can. If you want to wait a month and think about it and do it next month, you can wait on it too. This is the 3rd board that I've attended. So one board decided to wait and one board decided to do it that evening. So it's kind of up to whatever the board wants to do. All right, so some general procedures. I mentioned the Sunshine Act and Robert's Rules. I have some more information on that later on. One of the other things that we've tried to do in the interest of open government and transparency is standardizing a lot of things. Oh, bad PowerPointing here that stretched over. I guess
Ian loves his power.
I do. But so all of our advisory boards will have the same agenda of general format so that if any member of the public goes online, looks at an agenda, it'll have a consistent format to it. Depending on what you're working on and what might be happening, some things may change on the agenda, but generally the format should be the same. And as well as sort of standardizing a pre-meeting schedule so that we can get information like the agenda posted to the website out in a timely fashion to the public so that people know what's being discussed by our various boards. You're all adults here. We're going to treat you like adults and, expect you to be able to RSVP by a deadline. So, 7 days in advance, that's calendar days of the board, whenever a board meeting is scheduled is the RSVP deadline. If we don't have a quorum by that point in time, quorum being more than half of the board, so 5 members. If there isn't a quorum that responds, then we'll cancel the meeting. What we were running into previously with some of our boards was it would be the day before and we'd have 3 members that had responded and we'd be like, should we cancel the meeting? Should we not cancel the meeting? What are we gonna do? So we wanna make sure that we have enough time in the interest of governmental transparency to, if we need to cancel, we'll cancel. If we need to have a meeting, we'll have a meeting. And then making sure the agenda is posted on the website so that, the board members know, the general public knows what's being discussed at these meetings. And then the Friday before or sooner, whenever things are available, any pre-meeting information will get uploaded to your board SharePoint site, which Andrew set up, you all have access to, and then you have your board meeting. So also from a year-long calendar standpoint, a lot of what happens is structured around when the commission approves the budget. So our municipal budget is a calendar year, January through December budget. December is when the budget's approved. But by our charter, the commission has to receive the capital plan August 1st of each year, receive the manager's recommended budget November 1st of each year. So kind of backing up from that is when staff starts to put together the capital plan. So prior to that is when we need the advisory boards to submit any capital project lists or any budget requests, things like that, as we move forward towards the manager putting together his budget and then that budget being released to the public and the commission holding budget hearings. And as time goes on, as your board continues to do work, you may decide to kind of fill in the calendar with other months. You may decide, I'll use a different example, but like Parks and Rec may decide, every February, we're going to do an assessment of the parks and go out and walk around the parks or something like that, kind of fill that in for a February task or something like that. So if other things come up that kind of become routine annual things and you want to kind of fill in a schedule, you have the freedom to do that too. But just from an overall structure, I wanted to make sure everyone understood why we need things by certain days to, certain deadlines to get things done. I mentioned the capital project prioritization. So under our previous structure where we had 10 advisory boards, only 3 of them, really only 2 were submitting annual prioritization lists for the capital program. And ideally, we'd like to have all of our advisory boards, if you have something, be able to submit priority lists. So then the commission's able to kind of weigh all those things side by side when they're considering what gets funded, what doesn't get funded in the final budget. The number to kind of keep in the back of your head is $100,000. So if it's a project larger than $100,000, it goes in the capital program. If it's less than $100,000, it goes in the regular operating budget. And then any kind of capital project you may want to propose should have a reference back to any goals in a certain plan, whether it's the comprehensive plan, the Parks Master Plan, anything like that, that project will help accomplish, as well as a description and justification and project costs for, how much is this going to cost? Why are we doing it? And what is it? Okay. The board also has the ability to create subcommittees. So either the commission can create a subcommittee or an advisory board can create a subcommittee. Board created subcommittees expire every year, but at the reorganization meeting where you pick a chair, you can just vote to renew that subcommittee. So if there's a certain project that the board is working on, but really we're hoping that these board meetings can be like business meetings and mostly kind of, give reports, vote on approving things, all that. We're hoping that a lot of the sort of discussion work can happen at a subcommittee level. So if there's a certain project that, maybe 2 or 3 board members are interested in pursuing, can make a subcommittee, can, hash a lot of things out, come back to the board, maybe make a presentation, maybe make a recommendation. And then there can be some discussion of it, obviously, at the board level, but a lot of the, nitty gritty stuff can get worked out at the subcommittee level. So subcommittees can't have a quorum, so it has to be less than 5 people of the board, or 5 of the, appointed voting members of the board. You can have other non-voting members, as many as you want or don't want. The other thing with subcommittees is while the regular board meetings with all 9 of you, or at least 5 of you, are open, public, advertised meetings, because there's no quorum at a subcommittee meeting, you can do it anytime you want. It doesn't have to be at a public meeting. So you can really hash out a lot of things in discussion and bounce ideas back and forth at the subcommittee level that may not, need to get discussed in public event. I mean, if it's something that gets recommended, obviously we'll discuss it in public, but if you're just kind of bouncing ideas around, the subcommittee level is a good place to do that. And then any subcommittee documents should just kind of have its own folder within the SharePoint site, and keep all the documents there too. Ad hoc committees have their own special carve out in our administrative code, so the commission can establish those for a 1-year term to study a specific matter. Ad hoc committees may contain non-residents, and they can either be standalone bodies or fall under the oversight of a certain advisory board. So probably about 10 years ago, we did a home rule charter subcommittee or ad hoc committee, and that was a standalone body, just reported back to the commission. They looked at our whole charter, made some recommendations on things that could be updated. Most recently, the commission did a diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. Those were ad hoc committees that were nested under the community relations board at that point in time. So those ad hoc committees reported to the CRB, and then the community relations board reviewed their recommendations, and the CRB was the one that made the final recommendation to the commission. So if there was some kind of ad hoc committee put together to study something, the commission may say, we'd like them to report to the finance board, and the finance board to review their findings before the commission sees it. So that's kind of how that structure would work. So whoever the chairperson is, runs the meetings. As far as Robert's rules of parliamentary procedure go, at the board level, it's really mostly about motions, seconds, and discussion and voting. All the other point of order, point of privilege doesn't really matter at this level. That's for a much larger deliberative body. So motions can be made by anyone except the chair. Seconds can be made by anyone except the person who made the motion. So the chair is allowed to second a motion. A motion that does not get a second does not proceed to discussion. Once something has a motion and a second, it goes to discussion. The chairperson presides over the discussion, so calls on people to make comments. Once discussion is ended, then it moves on to a vote. You can do the vote either just by general, everyone in favor say aye, everyone opposed say nay, any abstentions. If it's close, then you can do a roll call vote where you call on each member individually to say how they voted, just to make sure that we have accurate records for our meeting minutes. And then if there's any amendments to the motion, that's kind of a little carve out. Basically the same process where someone needs to make a motion to amend the original motion, and then needs a second. There's discussion of the amendment, voted on the amendment, and then if the amendment passes, kind of goes back to discussion of the amended motion. If the amendment fails, it goes back to discussion of the original motion as it was. Okay. The SharePoint site is our official municipal document storage repository for all of our boards. The staff liaisons will maintain it and invite board members to the SharePoint site. And as I said, all working documents will be stored there. Any agendas and pre-meeting information that you might need will be stored there as well. And board members will be responsible for reviewing any information prior to the meeting. I'm assuming, or I'm sure Andrew will send you an email to be like, hey, we're having a meeting, there's information on the SharePoint site, go check it out, so on and so forth. And then after a meeting, the meeting minutes that the board approves at each meeting, staff liaisons will upload that internally to our storage system, Laserfish, as well as sending to our IT department for posting on the website. The one thing I will note about meeting minutes is because the board approves minutes from the prior meeting at the start of the next meeting, those don't get posted online until after it's approved by the board. So, there is a month delay from when the meeting happens to when the minutes actually get posted. And we do that just to make sure that the board has a chance to review them, make sure, did we spell your name correctly? And meeting minutes are not a verbatim copy of what happened at the meeting. They're usually kind of summaries of what was discussed, but just to kind of make sure that, we're all just openly talking here, right? That sometimes you phrase something in a way that wasn't necessarily your intent. There's a flash flood warning. So making sure that the way something is stated in the minutes actually matches the intent of what you were saying. And when you vote to approve the minutes, if there's any amendments to the minutes that you'd like to see, you can discuss them kind of at that point in time. But since all of our meetings are live broadcast on Zoom and YouTube, the video posting is available, the day or two after the meeting. So if people really want to see what happened, they can go watch the video of the meeting. But the official record, the minutes won't get posted until the following month after the board votes to approve them. Okay. So I talked about our comprehensive plan. One of the really unique things we did with our comprehensive plan was we aligned the 5 major areas of the comp plan with our 5 new advisory boards. And to my knowledge, we're the only community in Pennsylvania that's ever done that. Really trying to integrate what's in our long-range 10-year plan with the advisory boards that the commission has set up to give them, advice and recommendations on certain key areas. So flash flood, no tornado warning, so we're good. So with the 5 boards, each board has obviously the goals and objectives laid out in the comp plan, but then several other approved plans. Most of the other boards have more of those, but several other approved plans that the commission has adopted or is currently working on to adopt, that will help structure, the areas of focus for what the board can consider and prioritize and things like that. Okay. So the comprehensive plan is our 10-year plan of goals and objectives, and it is a long-range plan. So we are very aware that we're not going to accomplish everything in year 1 or year 2. We were very successful with our last comp plan in the 10 years from 2013 to 2022. We accomplished about 95% of the goals in that plan. So we're very excited with our newly adopted comp plan to have a whole new set of goals and objectives to work towards. At the board level, the focus is really on prioritizing and recommending projects for implementation. The boards don't do the implementation, it's municipal staff that does the implementation, but then also tracking and reporting on progress made toward those goals, because in addition to being the assistant municipal manager, I'm also the municipal planner, and every year I give an update to the planning board and the commission on what goals of the comp plan we have accomplished. So having those annual reports from the boards to say, here's what each of these boards did to help us achieve goals in the comp plan will be very, very helpful towards myself and my office in making those reports back to the commission. So we talked a lot about, we want you to focus on stuff that's in the comp plan and commission approved priorities first. But let's say you have your own idea for something else. So the first thing you should ask is, does it further a goal or recommendation that's already in an existing plan? And maybe not directly, but maybe in a tertiary or tangential way it does. Then you're probably okay to kind of start discussing it and working on it, as long as you can tie it back to some goal and some approved plan. If you can't find any goal or objective in any approved plan or commission priority, the first thing to do is discuss it with the commission liaison and staff liaisons. Is it something that's feasible? Mount Lebanon, as far as local governments in Allegheny County, has one of the larger ones, but as an other than the city of Pittsburgh, but as an organization, we are still relatively small. We have, 145 full-time employees. So, and that's counting, police, fire, public works. So the administrative staff is not huge. So figuring out if something is feasible to do is really the first step. And then after that, if it is something that's kind of deemed as feasible to be done at the local government level, making a motion to request the commission to provide direction. So during a business portion of the meeting, someone would say, I move to request direction from the commission on whatever this thing might be. And then if it gets a approval vote, then Commissioner Silverman would take it to the commission, they would discuss it in discussion session with the whole body of the commission saying, you know, okay, weighing all of the other priorities and goals and objectives and everything else we have and we know that we're working on, is this something that we want the board to spend their time on? And then the commission would give either yes, go ahead and work on it, or, you know, no, that's not a high priority right now. Have them work on the approved things, and then commission liaison would come back to the board and say, either, okay, we got the thumbs up to keep working on this, or, you know, no, the commission has other priorities right now, let's focus on something else. And really, we wanted to put this in place so that we didn't have, like I mentioned before, boards, you know, doing a lot of work and spinning their wheels and then getting super frustrated when the commission decided not to pursue something that they had spent a lot of time on. So we really want to have this structure to make sure that the boards really are on board and the commission's on board with what the boards are doing, and the boards are in alignment with what the goals and priorities of the commission are. Because your time is valuable and we don't want you to waste it. So in the comprehensive plan, there were several very big, long-range goals laid out for the financial management section. Continuing to provide high-quality public services with greater efficiencies and prioritized upgrades. That's a very broad definition that can be applied to a lot of things. Pursuing creative partnerships with other municipalities and organizations. I'm really proud to say that we were actually just given or awarded a governor's award for local government excellence. Mr. McCreary won it for a financial partnership with the Borough of Dormont that we started a couple years ago. And we've recently added Etna and Churchill boroughs to that financial cooperative where we're able to provide accounting services for them. Basically, they still have all control over their own money, but because we have a larger organization, a larger budget than those small communities, we have access to certain softwares and additional checks and balances that they didn't have. So it's been a very good cooperative program that the one with Dormont, I think, saved them about 20 grand a year and doesn't cost our taxpayers anything because they're basically just paying us to do their finances for them. So congratulations, Andrew, on the governor's award. We were in Harrisburg yesterday, so we're.
That's why today's meeting is today.
Yes. So one of the other priorities was evaluating the waste management options for the next contract. So just to explain that a little bit, we have a 5-year garbage collection contract. We just entered into a new one that started January 1st of this year. One of the questions that the commission had brought up as we were discussing the garbage contract is, you know, what would be the feasibility of bringing garbage collection in-house, not the contract with a third party to do it, but to bring it in-house. And we said, wow, that's a really big endeavor that's probably beyond the time and capacity that the municipal staff has. Maybe we should have the new financial management board take a look at that and weigh all of the, you know, pros and cons. And there's just so many different variables that go into it and a lot of financial modeling. So, you know, we're under a 5-year contract right now, but it's definitely something to kind of keep on your radar in the short term. Like maybe you want to put together a subcommittee to start looking at what are all the variables in play, what are the costs, what are the benefits, might be something to start thinking about because those 5 years will go pretty quickly. And if, you know, the eventual recommendation is, hey, you know, at the end of this contract, we'll probably be paying close to $4 million a year for our garbage collection services. So if the board studies it and says, hey, you could do it internally for $3 million a year, this might be something you want to consider. Obviously, there's lead time with purchasing trucks, with finding dump sites, entering into contracts. So we probably would need to have that answer by like year 2.5 to 3 to have the lead time by the end of that 5-year contract to be able to get that going internally. And so that was another recommendation of the comp plan to evaluate it. So, you know, the word evaluate is key, that the comp plan says, let's look at it. It doesn't say we have to bring it in-house, but just take a look at it, see if it's worthwhile, you know, kind of run some financial models on that. In the same vein, other service level expansions on a fee-based service. So there's a variety of different ideas that were kind of bandied about there, but then anything that might come up to say, you know, could the municipality provide this service to residents if they paid a fee in addition to certain taxes for something? You know, could be something to consider. Plan for planning, the comp plan as the municipal planner, this one was near and dear to my heart. The comp plan kind of laid out, you know, over the next 10 years, here's some of the other plans you should accomplish so that, you are continually making sure that what you're doing is in line with best practices and things like that. So the next one is an active transportation plan, doing a feasibility study on rebuilding the south garage site. A number of other plans coming down the pike, a climate action plan, probably in 2030, give or take, but that'll be here before we know it. Employing appropriate financial planning and management tools. So one of the precursor bodies to this board was the Pension Investment Advisory Board. So there will be some advisory work on pension stuff, which Andrew knows a whole lot more about than I do. So I'll just leave it at that very high level description. He can talk more about it. And then recognizing commitments in the 2022 climate resolution. So 2 years ago, the commission, actually almost 2 years ago to the day, it was in April, approved a resolution on climate and sustainability initiatives. One of the items in there was by a certain deadline, I think it was 2030, but I could be wrong about that, to incorporate like the total cost of carbon into municipal budgeting calculations. So, having a board of financial management experts that can help us figure out what that number is and how that factors into, different capital plan items. So maybe some of that is, and, once we come up with whatever that formula is, saying, okay, here's how your capital plan is laid out. Here's the numbers you have. You need to add this multiplier to certain things that are in that plan, and giving us some input and advice on where those numbers should be added and how it should be done and what that formula should be. So those are the big 7 items in the comp plan. There's some other smaller ones and sub recommendations, but those are the primary areas. So I mentioned, pretty much talked about these already. So kind of, where to begin with certain things. Funded projects for this year, the active transportation plan, the South Garage reuse study, and then every year we update our capital improvement program. So if you look on our website at the capital plan, it'll say it's a 5-year document, but we update it annually. So that's a continual thing that the municipality does. Actually, the planning office does the capital program as well, which is why I'm so invested and interested in getting capital project lists from everyone. And then future projects, I talked about the in-house garbage collection. We're also doing a study on the existing ice rink rec center facility at Main Park. So if we have to consider, bond issues, things like that, the cost of carbon calculations I talked about. So those are some things kind of coming down the pike in the short term from, what Mr. McCreary has said. Some of our older bond issues are going to fall off within the next few years. So we'll have some additional bonding capacity. So the commission may ask the board for, some advice and recommendations on not necessarily the projects that would go into a bond issue, but, how should a bond issue be structured, and, how much, obviously we have bond counsel that works with us too, but, how much capacity do we actually have for a bond issue, given our current taxing structure, given some other things that we have on our plate. So I also mentioned, I talk about the right to know law. So any documents relating to public entity business can be requested by anyone. This does include emails and text messages. So like I said, any emails, just copy your staff and commission liaisons, because if we get a right to know request on something, our IT department can run internal searches on our emails. So as long as they're copied, those will be able to be pulled, and we won't have to go into your personal email accounts, which we don't want to have to do, and you don't want to have to open those up to the right to know officers either. And so really the key point is, don't put anything in writing that you wouldn't say in a public meeting. And so, like I said, incidental things like, if you text someone on the board and say, hey, are you coming to the meeting tonight? Can I get a ride with you? That's fine. That's not official board business. That's incidental communication. But if it's, are you supporting this thing? I need your vote. That is. So a phone call is always better because there's no written documentation. And then the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act. So any meetings with a quorum have to be open to the public and have public comment sections. Any deliberations or decisions have to occur at an advertised public meeting. Pretty much covered the right to know law. Anyone has any questions about right to know stuff, we have a section on our website about it. So that's pretty much just the email thing. And then the Sunshine Act, any questions on Sunshine Act, open meeting stuff, you can contact our municipal solicitor. I'll send Andrew a copy of this presentation so you can put it on your SharePoint site. Boards are allowed to have executive sessions, behind closed doors with the municipal solicitor. So those can discuss, personnel matters, considering purchasing or leasing property, discussion of litigation, public safety matters. This board probably won't have many of those. The one thing I will say is just a, potential warning is that when you have an exec session, at the next meeting, you have to announce it. So you have to say, we held an exec session on this day to discuss personnel matters, or probably won't be personnel matters, but like, if you say we had an exec session to discuss purchase of property, then, someone could request further information. Well, what property was it? Things like that. So you just kind of have to be careful with that. The solicitor will give you very good advice on how to proceed in those matters, but, discussions of those things don't have to happen during a open public meeting, but you do have to say, we had this meeting and this is what happened. So, and then I think that pretty much covers everything I had for an overview and orientation. That was probably a ton of information, like drinking from a fire hose, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have about kind of the setup and structure that we're hoping to achieve with these new boards. We fully recognize that, the first year or so of this will be a learning experience for everyone. There'll be bumps in the road, but, we're very hopeful in the long run that this will smooth things out and improve the efficiency of getting good recommendations in the capital plan and to the commission to expedite, some approvals of projects and enable us to have good discussion and good recommendations on a number of things. Yes.
Back on slides 18 or so, then just on that one, and then also the sunshine and right to know stuff.
Yes.
Let's say you want to get together with someone and have a beer and a cigar somewhere. And, let's say there's 5 of us. Is that legal?
The solicitor would say no. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. The solicitor would say no if any board business is being discussed. If I actually ran into this when I was the borough manager in Homestead, that there was 5 of my 7 elected officials met at a diner for breakfast every morning and would have breakfast. And the solicitor had to be like, I understand you all have known each other since high school. And I understand you had a meeting last night, but you cannot discuss what happened at the meeting at these breakfasts. So yes, you could get together and have a beer and a cigar as long as no board business is discussed.
Thank you.
Yes. You want to talk about the Pirates or who the Steelers are going to draft? Totally fine. You want to talk about who you're going to vote on for board chair? Not okay.
Questions for Ian? Thank you, Ian.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Yes. So I am done before 7, so I can go put my kids to bed now.
Yes, right ahead. Mr. Silverman, you are next on the list.
My report will be considerably brief. I don't know how much you follow as far as what commission is talking about or any sort of things. I don't know quite how to structure the report. At this point, it's your questions, please ask. Something the commission liaison report you want me to focus on, I'll try and clarify where I can. But I think right now we're digesting Ian's presentation, so we'll kind of let that sit. But again, any questions, whatever, let me know. We'll go from there.
Thank you all for your time and being willing to volunteer for the board. And as I said, I'm your assistant municipal manager. So if you need anything, have any questions about board stuff or anything else, feel free to reach out and contact me. Have a good night.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian. So I got?
Let's anybody.
All right.
It's kind of Q&A, so if anybody has any questions for me. All right.
Questions for Steve. Okay, so the staff liaison report here. So I got a couple things for everybody. So saw a couple emails from me. If anybody has any issues with the SharePoint site, I know you mentioned about the printing. If you have any issues, please let me know. I should be able to walk you through. Ian is accurate in stating that I do like SharePoint. I do like those types of things. I just want to make sure it works. You get what you need. We do a lot of reporting in the finance department, so there's a lot of things that are already public. If you're not familiar with our website, please go take a look. I added 2 links today to our website. One one, obviously the homepage if you've never been there, but we also have interim financial statements that are out there too. So that'll be on our SharePoint site. We can always add as we go, what makes sense. We're responsible for to the two major reports of the municipality every year. And the one being we feel is the most important, which is the budget. Our office, Terry and myself, we're the lead yes, it is titled the manager's recommended budget, and ultimately it is his recommendation. But we're all the behind the scenes leading everybody down that path. So if you do have questions about the budget or how it then ties to our financial reports, please let us know. We'll be able to help you any way we can. We also produce an annual comprehensive financial report, which is an award-winning document since 1976. We are the longest running winner of the Government Finance Officers Association Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting since 1976. So it's a long running. I've done 11 of them now. We just got our 12th. It's a prideful document that we take a lot of pride in. So it's a very comprehensive document. It could put you to sleep, especially those that may never read a government financial document. It is you obviously read one, but it probably still puts you to sleep too. But that's there as well for you. We also produce a comprehensive fee schedule. We just did a warm handoff, as Ian would say, of the capital improvement plan to the planning department, because that makes more sense for the municipality. So there are quite a few financial planning documents out there. So anything we need as a requisite tool, kind of coming back to the SharePoint site. As we develop, please make suggestions to make it more easily accessible for us as we discuss. So we'll be able to do that.
The
So
chapter offset.
yeah, that's we don't really produce that. Just kind
My
of.
point is that in the May magazine, there's a nice summary. So if you want to get kind of a quick, overview of things like who the top tax, payment organizations are, that sort of thing. It's a nice 101. And again, that should be in the May magazine.
Yeah, we do that every year. This year it's the Taylor Swift theme, so everybody has to be a Swiftie this year in Mount 11. So that's primarily the SharePoint site. We'll develop as we go. Please let me know if you have any questions. Next meeting, I do want to request, so it's May 8th is our next meeting. Typically May, August, November, and February were our consultants or our outside investment firm that handles our pension plans, which is, well over 100 million. They come and report to our pension investment advisory board prior. We don't have to make the decision today. I think it would be a good idea for he's from PFM, his name's Perry Giovanelli, to come speak to the entire board. But it is something to think about. I want the board to think, do we want this at a subcommittee level? Doesn't necessarily have to be here. It can also be online. It could be a Zoom meeting with 3 members as a subcommittee, those types of things. But it is something we need to continue, whether it be at a board level. It is very important to us for not only the transparency side, but it is good to have eyes on our pension plans at all times. And quarterly seems to work very well. It dovetails with a lot of the other things that we do that are with pension plans, which are actuarial reports, our minimum municipal obligation, all things I will explain later if you don't know what those mean. Not intended to explain those tonight. But there's a lot of things that you'll hear as we go through budgets and talk about different things that dovetail with pension plans and how those things work. So I want to make sure that they're at least here for the first one in May. And then moving forward, this board will have to decide how we want to handle that. So
I agree that having that as a good background for the board. Likewise, I mentioned that May magazine, again, we're just starting at this, so trying to give you as much background and then we can go.
So that's all I have.
That was the first board I served on, so we're both pension junkies, so I'm sorry.
Speak for yourself. I don't know if I'm a junkie but I may know a few things. Yeah, you have to brag that board was in existence since the early 2000s, and our pension plans are very well funded. 2 of our pension plans are defined benefit plans are over 100% funded. and our police plan is probably one of the best in the state. So, it did a lot of good for a long time, so we want to make sure we keep that up. So that's all I have. So we will have an actual presentation next meeting, so it won't be just us looking at each other, looking to see what we're gonna do. But please, we can communicate, as we move forward, if there's an item that we need to also put on the agenda for that meeting, so. A couple announcements for me. I won't be at the July meeting. I will be attending virtually. Terry will be running that meeting in July. I will not be here for that one.
I'm sorry, for July.
I'm glad you asked. I don't know that answer. My second Wednesday in,
That is like July,
10th.
I will probably be unable to attend that meeting as well.
So some summer meetings become tough for all of us, but just wanted to let you know that there will be those, and I will try to tell you as who will be covering that meeting. Whether Terry or I will be covering that meeting, so. That's all I have this evening. If anybody has any questions for me, please let me know. So under new business, did we want to elect a chair tonight and vice chair, or we can punt it to next meeting?
Probably punt to the next meeting if we have someone else joining.
Yes, okay, fair enough. All right, we'll punt that to next meeting. Next meeting is May 8th, 6 p.m. this room. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. All right, meeting has adjourned.